I guess everybody knows me. I'm Tom Richeson. Kathryn was my aunt. My mother, Sarah, was her sister. So that's how we're connected. And it's like we had two groups of family. We had the Pennsylvania family and the Florida family. Kathryn was the Florida family. That's how I know her. Probably back about 1959 or 1960, and I was just a little kid then. Kathryn moved in and lived with us. She was not married. She didn't have a family, and I think myself, my brothers, my sister, our family, she was part of our family. She moved in with us. She had been working, I guess, up here in Pennsylvania and wanted a new career, so she came to Florida and started going to nursing school. And once again, I'm a little kid. I may have the facts off of it, but I think she lived with us about 1 or 2 years. And then after she got her nursing degree or license, she moved over to Daytona Beach to be near a hospital where she was going to work. And she was like an extended part of her family. Most weekends she would come by. It seemed like every Sunday she'd come by for chicken dinner or whatever. She was there. And major holidays, Christmas, Easter, birthdays, she was there. And I know she was not well-to-do, but I remember she always gave all of us kids some present of some sort. And she was a very giving person. When she was living in Daytona, she was renting an apartment, and I think the last name of the family was Lyle, and I may have that wrong too. But she was renting a duplex and renting it from the Lyles, and there was another lady there, Jean. And Jean and Kathryn became very good friends, and they would travel around quite a bit. And I can remember probably 14 or 15, they went on a trip out to San Francisco. Actually, I think they did a bus tour all the way out to California and back. And I remember she brought back a little folding penknife for me. And I carried that thing around for several years. It was a nice little souvenir. It had a San Francisco streetcar on it. So that was a little treasure. Also back when I was younger, like 8 or 9, I remember that Kathryn and I went on a bus trip together from DeLand up to St. Augustine. It was just the two of us. And we saw the museums, we saw the old fort in St. Augustine, the old schoolhouse. We saw a lot of things. That was a fun trip. And I think back when I remember she bought me a coloring book at that castle, the castle in St. Augustine. That just popped into my head. And I guess as time goes on, I grew up and left home, and at one point, I guess, Jean's parents died, and they had left the duplex to Jean. And as time went on, Jean got into ill health, and Jean left that duplex to Kathryn. So that worked out really good for her. And then I guess too, as Kathryn's health declined, she realized she couldn't take care of herself and wanted to go into a nursing home or assisted living, which she did. So at that point, she sold the duplex and made the transfer over. So I don't know how much of that you all knew. But she was always very generous to myself, my brothers, my sister, and my own family. I have 4 kids, and we lived in Central Florida too, in the town of Popka. And once again, she would come by on major holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. She was a good family friend and good to all my kids. And once again, I knew she didn't have very much money or means, but she always was nice to my kids too, with the presents and the gifts. A little side note on cars. I remember when she first moved to Florida, she had, I think it was an old Chevy, and I guess it was some family car, some relative owned, and she had to pull it out of the barn, and I think they had to wash off all the dust and dirt and feathers off of it, and she drove that to Florida. And as she was getting older, when she got about 80, she was beginning to realize she couldn't drive anymore. And, well, that car is long gone, but she had another car that she had parked in her carport at her house, and someone stole it. And she finally got it back about 6 months later, and she never drove after that. But the car was beat up, and she knew she was not going to drive anymore, so she gave it to my family. And I fixed it up. With my 4 kids, they were in high school at the time, and became a hand-me-down car. Each one of my kids at some point drove that going to school. And then they went off to college, and they didn't want the car anymore. And circumstances changed, and I ended up with the car. In fact, I drove that car here today. So, a little side note. But I know with Kathryn, she was a very, very generous, loving person. She always gave. I never heard her complain about anything, never. And maybe that's part of her upbringing, growing up in the Depression or whatever, but she never complained about anything. She had a very keen sense of humor, or sort of a dry sense of humor, which I enjoyed talking to her and hearing her joke and her humor. And I'm sure she's in a very good place. I'm sure she's in heaven right now. So I just wanted to share some of my memories with you.
Thank you.